When I was a young boy, I was lucky enough to have Grandma live with us. Every year, Grandma would invite her elderly friends over for a sleepover party. The next day, I woke to the sound of elderly ladies gossiping, chattering about life, and I woke to the sight and smell of Asian snacks. They must have woken up in the wee mornings to make what seemed like hundreds of snacks. Of course, this could have just been my eyes. Everything looked bigger when you were a child. In this video, I'm going to go over the general steps to make the savory rice dumplings that my grandma taught us to make. The ingredients list is on the side. The first thing you must do is to soak the leaves for 2 days straight. I change the water every day. Bamboo leaves add a lot of earthy and grassy flavor to the rice. This also cleans the leaves. However, the main benefit to soaking the leaves is to make them foldable without breaking. Here's a close-up of how to fold the bottom portion of the dumpling, and the top part is essentially the same. It's rather simple. Just fold the bottom to make a funnel. I'll do later samples in this video, but this is the best close-up shot that I have. I typically pan fry the Chinese sausage to get rid of some of the fats and also help seal in the taste. You're going to be boiling the dumplings later, and if you don't like boiled Chinese sausage, then you should probably roast them a bit as well. Other preparation to do is to wash and strain the rice and then add salt. For 10 pounds of rice, I had a tablespoon of salt. If you want it more salty, you can add more. But remember, there's salt in the sausage already. Here is where the fun part, or the work part, actually begins. Select one leaf and fold it and put another leaf on top of that one. Put a couple spoons of rice, then put in your fillings. Once you put in fillings, put another spoonful or two of rice on top of that. Fold the top as you did the bottom and use string to tie it shut. Other ingredients you can put inside are dried shrimp, chestnuts, red beans, salted egg. It's really up to you, but I do not like any of those things inside my dumpling. I am just putting pork shoulder, Chinese sausage, a bunch of peanuts. I also like ham, but I didn't have that on me. This is how it should look like when it's done. Pay careful attention to the tying. I'm sure I might have done it a little too fast. Let's look at a closer view. After I got old enough to make these with Grandma, because I don't like dried shrimp or salted eggs, I remember as a kid trying to quickly run those supply dries of these ingredients by putting a ton of these inside each dumpling initially to increase the chances later on to get a shrimp-free or egg-free dumpling. Besides this, which did not always work, to keep track of what dumplings contain what, if you are using different ingredients, you can always tie the dumplings together in pairs or in threes to indicate what type of dumplings and their contents. This didn't always work because as a kid, I sometimes forgot which dumplings I tied as 2, which dumplings I tied as 3. And sometimes because of that, I got a single rice dumpling with over 50 dried shrimp. I also found some colored string that you can use to indicate the contents. I didn't read them on time when I made these dumplings, but after I got them 2 weeks later, I cut a small piece, boiled it for 15 minutes, and then left them in the hot liquid for like a few hours, and it didn't leach any colors. The string as well as the other ingredients are in the link in the description below. Let's take a look at how it's tied again at the end, as this might be a little complicated. Just fold one flap over the other and fold the top down. Hold it in place and tie a string around the whole thing. Here it is again, from another angle. Pay attention to the folding of the action that's going on here. Then layer the next leaf on top. In goes 2 scoops of rice. You put in the ingredients. And then fold the top as if you did the bottom and wrap everything up. After 2 hours, I was able to make roughly 75 dumplings. Since the dumplings take a long time to cook, after the first 15 or so, whatever would fit in the stock pot that you have, I would put them in this and submerge them in water and boil them while making the rest of them. This serves 2 purposes. The first being that when you're done making it all, you'll have something good to eat. And secondly, if the batch turns out to be not as salty as you wish, you can always add additional salt in the water and have the dumplings boiled in the salted water. I boiled them completely covered with water, and once the water is boiling, I boil for another good hour and 15 minutes. After it's done, I would take them out and let them cool. So what do you do with all these dumplings? You just made 75 of them. Do I keep them all? Do I eat them all in one day? Well, I eat a lot in one day, maybe like 10 of them. However, I give a lot to friends and families. I gave roughly half of these to friends and families. As you can see, it takes a little time to prepare and make all these dumplings, which is why I freeze them when I'm done. They actually freeze very well. I can make an additional video later on to show how to defrost them, but essentially, you can either reboil them or you can microwave them covered. Grandma left us long ago. In fact, over 20 years ago, during my senior year in high school. I never really asked myself, did I miss her? Sure, I visit her remains at the temple twice a year. But I would say this is out of respect and love. A week ago, if you forced me to be 100% truthful and to tell you whether or not I missed her, I would have to be honest and say no. I know it sounds horrible and definitely ungrateful to the person who spent the greater part of her elderly life to raise me and made me who I am today. But it seems like time heals all wounds. But what about back then? What about back in high school? Did I miss her back then? Whether it be negligence, being in high school, or the human healing process, I would unfortunately say, not really. After her funeral, things were mostly back to normal within a week. I do, however, once in a while ask myself, what were my last memories of her? Or infinitely more important, her last memories of me? To tell the truth, I don't remember. But I know one thing for certain, is that I didn't treat her as if it were her last day on earth. I learned a lot of life skills from her, skills that made me who I am today. Many things I do in my life today reminds me of her and my childhood. I wonder, if she met me right now, would she be proud of who I was, or am? Would she be happy that I carried on her tradition of vegetable gardening? Would she give me advice on how to grow wintermelon? Would she be happy that I learned from her hanging clothes in the backyard? Would she approve of my life? I miss you, Grandma.